after his court appearance. A 47-year-old man, Avid Reese, also known as Blinny, was shot and killed in Cokereat on Wednesday night. Reese, a foreman with the Unemployment Relief Program and a resident of Upper Waterhole, was found dead at his home around 8:35 p.m. after sustaining multiple gunshot wounds. Western Division Police responding to the scene discovered Reese lying motionless in his gallery. Investigations into the incident are ongoing. The Caribbean Examinations Council has reported that only 36% of students across the region passed the CSEC mathematics exam this year, a significant drop from last year's 43%. The results announced on August 20th in Dominica also revealed a concerning decline in pass rates for other subjects, with Spanish and integrated science also showing poor outcomes. CXC officials expressed their alarm over the declining performance, highlighting the need for urgent interventions in education. Trinidad and Tobago's local results are still being reviewed by education officials. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man
is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
WESN.
After yesterday and my heightened emotions at what is the latest child killing, which is just one more too many, there have been a response in the media. Experts have come out to speak. Authorities have come out to speak. Of course, the murder rate also coinciding with the violence that has claimed the lives of several children, as well as other innocents. The murder rate in its totality also seems to be increasing. These are things that we in TNT are concerned about, because we are seeing the violence evolve. Evolution is not a good or a bad, it just is. And the violence is evolving as new weapons are being utilized in various ways that they were not utilized 4 years ago. And now the calculations of acceptability is being challenged by the reality. And the media and experts and stakeholders spoke out about, I guess you could call it somewhat of a trend of the callousness of our criminals. In fact, one criminologist basically warns of that directly, that it speaks to a certain degree of callousness. Something that has been said often, and yet nothing has really come out of these warnings. And it dawned on me, at the end of the day, the words of criminologists, sociologists, political scientists, economists who are concerned about crime, political activists, members of the media, including myself, these words at the end of the day only go so far. And ultimately speaking, without action, they are ultimately proven to be empty. I could speak on this matter and be upset about it till the cows come home. I myself am not in a position to formulate policy. I could give my opinion, maybe even give suggestions, but action is then needed to actually change the situation. And if the words of the experts and the media, in my opinion, ultimately are proving to be empty in this case, then what is the value of the words from the executive leadership of our law enforcement system? When MP Scotland was made minister in the Ministry of National Security, one of the things I said is, this probably is the need of a fresh body and a fresh voice to throw out there to the wolves as a sacrificial lamb, because at some point they realize, well, the usual voices cannot repeat the same thing over and over, and you expect the public to at least accept and tolerate it. And not only is now Minister Scotland spending his individual political capital which the party probably doesn't value all that much, because it's not about the individual, it's about the party and by extension the political leader and whoever is in charge, you know, whoever is the first among equals in cabinet. So thereby, but the grace of God goes Minister Scotland. Hopefully he will not harm his own image too daily. But also, in a similar vein, the commissioner, not really speaking so much as before. No, DCP Benjamin, he seemingly is now the point man to talk. And while they are not giving us the same empty promises, for the most part, they are not necessarily telling us anything new. They are not necessarily showing us, hey, we're going to try something different. We're going to take a new path. It's still, you know, everything will take time. We will certainly see results, holistic investigations. We will bring perpetrators to justice, blah, blah, blah. Children are still dying, innocents are still dying, or becoming victims of violence. You can survive violence. That doesn't necessarily make it significantly easier. I still want to reiterate my point that we need to see action. Now, ideally, leadership and those involved in criminal justice will be the source of that action, but for whatever reason, there's a disconnect or an ineptitude or an unwillingness or something to cause the results to continue to be what should have been unacceptable 2 years ago when this whole thing started. But we've reached this point, and each time we get empty promises, it's almost not just an excuse, but it's almost as though they want to make it seem as if this is new. This now starts. We've now come to this point. It takes them by surprise. I don't understand why. The fact that a 5-year-old was killed in a hail of gunfire does not surprise me. But it seems as though it surprises people in TNT, but we've already seen this before. 5, 8, 12. At some point, a child is a child. I mean, one of the headlines is the Prime Minister is angered. I don't care about his anger. That headline has been used before. What has come of it? Nothing. So if the relevant authorities will not act, if we will not see action from that corner of society, while I'm not saying that we should have any sort of revolution or uprising, within the confines of a legal, peaceful democracy, there should be means and methods for others to act with non-violent, peaceful measures that are not disruptive to the point of being criminal. And I have yet to see the country even try anymore. I think another criminologist says that the public is frustrated and desensitized. And it's kind of scary. I spoke about this with Keaton yesterday. I don't ever want to be desensitized about this, because I personally will not necessarily know if I will like what I see in the mirror every morning. And I do wonder to what extent do we as a society live with ourselves, because a lot of our issues we are causing, we don't seem to understand that. We also don't seem to understand we cause it, we could solve it. We are the primary drivers of our own salvation to problems that we cause. We could criticize the politicians up to a point, and then we have to realize they come from us. We elected them in, whether you voted for the opposition or the majority government. At the end of the day, the point is that is the result of the process that we either participated in or neglected, thereby still exercising technically choice. That is to say, let's not cry over something that we failed to participate in and then don't like the results. So, I have seen outcry in the press. I have seen stakeholders speak. I have seen dog and pony show come from the government, their usual song and dance of things will get better, just give it time. We've been given it time. This whole year is just about waiting on time. It's an extension from last year. But, you know, don't pay attention to the murders, because we have 3 ships that are far more important. 3 ships from back in the day are killing our children now. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it is never a right time to have that discussion. I would just, I don't know, like to see something more than the Prime Minister mention his anger, while effectively seeing no results from his government for the last couple of years. And that's being generous, because we could probably lump in most of his administration, not including the COVID years. What value is your anger to me, sir? It's not worth the paper it's printed on. Let's start off today's daily review. All right, not much time. Again, it's hard for me to control my emotions when we're talking about that particular subject, because all of the children who were killed is preventable. But with that said, something that has also been prevented, and I think it's a good thing for the country. Sean Michael Smaller, this is talking about a WSN, in case you forgot, and a story that I mentioned way back last month that we also mentioned this Wednesday. Well, sorry, not that we mentioned this Wednesday. We mentioned what might be a precedent-defining case that came before it this Wednesday, and now today we got news that Justice Frank C. Prasad has essentially dismissed Alan Warner's lawsuit over his denial of the use of his property and his inability to continue his quarrying operations on what I believe to be government lands, by which he eventually got 2 weeks after his arrest permission coming from the Ministry of Energy. And similar to the case where the Privy Council overturned the Court of Appeal's decision, I believe this is a similar case. Maybe a legal expert could tell me if and where I'm wrong. A constitutional court must act with caution and should not preempt any legitimate investigative process, nor should it interfere with the reasonable and/or rational exercise of investigative and prosecutorial discretion. Notice, in the last case, 3 murder suspects, because one witness changed his story, wanted to get it thrown out because the DPP didn't want to throw it out. So they went to civil court to do so. Notice that coming out of the constitutional reform recommendations, one of the items is to potentially have other ways to discipline independent office holders like the DPP, because we don't like what he's doing. And now in this case, the judge said Warren's Quarry Company Limited had not provided any evidence to show it had the relevant clearance under the Minerals Acts to process aggregates when the charges were filed, and a license granted by the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries on June 18th did not have retroactive effect because he was arrested on the 2nd. On the 2nd of May. And I actually think one of the, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, permission slips, I believe was actually granted May the 16th. At best, that's not how you properly function a government and do things. Where is the procurement legislation? I thought the government said it's here and it's working. He said where alternative remedies are available to the claimants, caution should be exercised and a constitutional claim only be maintained where there exist special features which justify the invocation of the court's constitutional jurisdiction. There were no exceptional circumstances which would warrant any interference with the ongoing criminal proceedings and or with the investigative process which are being engaged. Because if some people could be waiting years for their murder trial to proceed, 2.5 months when this claim to the court was presented. That was how long Mr. Warner did not have the use of his property. Heavens forbid. I mean, the judge right out said it. If the state is wrong, we could pay you back pay. We could give you damages. But we cannot, and yes, I understand. We don't necessarily want to do that. It's not like we want that in every case. But at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, that's the process. You cannot interrupt a criminal proceedings because you don't like how it's being done in a manner which is, it hasn't even begun to reach the depth of how far things could go for normal people. So somehow Mr. Warner, who probably is within the financial 1%, does not seem to understand the reality of the ground and or seems to think that it does not apply to him in some capacity. Because 2.5 months waiting, your property being confiscated for criminal investigations. Yes, it's not murder, but to some extent this is big money criminal investigations, right? 2.5 months, at least in TNT, is nothing. I don't think that's unreasonable. If he was saying something like 5 years, then maybe he would have a leg to stand on. But regardless, even if he had a claim he should have petitioned the criminal court in some capacity. Oh, by the way, some of the property that was confiscated was returned. So that was part of Justice C. Prasad saying he thinks that the state is operating in good faith. Regardless, a criminal matter is a criminal matter. Why does it seem as though there are rules for some, but not for all? And then now, the pièce de résistance. How do you as a government try? Because if this isn't what they were trying, then I completely do not understand what they were doing. Try to retroactively process the paperwork to grant legal authorization. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? So to what extent now is the government complicit? Granted, in the actual practicality of the matter, Mr. Warner may have actually gotten verbal permission, may have had verbal agreements, and for whatever reason, whoever was involved decided, let's move forward, toot sweet. But you don't cross your T's or dot your I's, you don't do things properly, you want to take shortcuts, congratulations, you got your hand caught in the cookie jar doing something technically illegal. And there are other ways that you could take shortcuts which are illegal, or you could try to circumvent the proper due process. On to the General's report. There's a statement from the Minister of Energy. Hopefully I'll have time to get into it. So I'll leave this here. I don't even know if we have time to unpack this with Karen next week, because this would have been something she's interested in. But we have the constitutional reform consultations. Quick story, the opposition leader, she has adjusted her messaging on the coat of arms. First, she said it could be divisive, this is serious, we need to be careful with this. Now she's saying it's a gimmick, it's a distraction, it's a waste of time on a certain level. I understand that. I just wish she may have maybe thought out her arguments a little bit better before she committed anything to the public to be published. That said, the UNC is looking to begin its election campaign in September because they at least assume they will take the Prime Minister at his word, no elections in November, but they want to be ready for December. And here's the thing, to some extent, I don't like that they have to do this. I have no love for the opposition, but I do not want to see them do poorly just because. It's not that I hate them. And the thing is, if they feel the need that they have to start the election campaign in September, given that I have criticized their communication skills, I wonder if they could maintain enough momentum going into whenever the Prime Minister does call elections, because once he sees this, he will probably look to want to call it as late as possible so that their campaign could potentially run out of steam. At least that's the basic political strategy that I've come up with upon my initial view. And I don't like this. It goes back to fixed election dates so everybody could know what's going on and plan accordingly. And we could have a race that's not about who has a big enough war chest to sustain their campaign, who has the right public relations strategy to sustain its messaging, but rather who just has the right message. Not that I think either side has the right message in this case, but it's the principle of the matter. And it doesn't matter that I have a low opinion of the capabilities of the opposition with regards to the principle of what I think is being inflicted upon them. I would hazard, I guess, it's not fair. Or it shouldn't be this way. Or if we do want fairness, we should not be willing to just let this be. I don't like it. Granted, you could argue, you know, they should be campaigning a year before. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But it is what it is. A story that I want to get to from the very start of the week that has been pushed back day after day after day. Two things. One, and one of the callers did mention it, the Minister of Finance says that we need to go cashless. Cashless transactions or digitizations, keys to the future. That's the headline I have here. And then also, because he wants to go cashless, he wants a cashless society in TNT, the Minister of Digital Transformation wants to tell the youth that our future is digital, right? So we have these two ministers looking at the future. Here's the rub, you know, the point in 30 seconds. There are aspects of the government that are not cashless. There are aspects of the government, if you want to get a bus ticket or so on, it has to be not just bought in cash by the consumer, but bought in cash by the retailer. Businesses have to spend cash to buy bus tickets and then sell to you. And that's not the only example of the government not going cashless. And one could argue we should also go paperless. But it's 2024. And we are barely scratching the surface of digital transformation. The police are using paper in some important documents, and in other important instances, they don't have enough devices. That's why if you ever see a car break the road traffic regulations in front of a police car, and the police car does nothing, it's because he didn't have a tablet in order to issue a ticket. So it made no sense for him to bother. One could argue he should at least drive after the violator and issue a warning. But no one ever accused the entirety of the TTPS of being on the ball. So I just wanted to point that out. If the government can't go cashless, you expect the rest of the country can't do it. Because too many things that they need to buy from the government, they need cash. So maybe the Minister of Finance should look into these things and iron out the system first before he talks out of his you know what. All right, I wanted to get to this story before I welcome the guests. And so an earlier story again in the week, Minister Young said he has confidence because Shell has apparently told him that they are full speed ahead with Dragon. But the U.S. ambassador to Guyana is disappointed that only 2 members of CARICOM, that is Guyana and I believe Suriname, have supported a statement about Venezuela's situation and democracy in Venezuela. Meanwhile, I think the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, they have basically supported Maduro. Now, if members of the Biden administration are going to send soft political messaging of disappointment, even if Trump doesn't win, because we expect, Karen and myself expect him to be a bit more hands-on on the Venezuelan issue. Even if that doesn't happen, can we be assured that Kamala Harris will leave our deals alone if she wins? It's hard to say. That said, okay, Shell, they're looking to go full speed ahead. They're confident. But the problem is, this whole situation in Venezuela could take a new turn if what we've seen in Ukraine and Israel-Palestine is any indication. Because I've seen things that I just did not expect. Crazy things that should never have happened. Why are we assuming that things will go right here? But there's something that the minister said that I just wanted to add. It's about trust. Success in the last 9 years was because you have people who are not corrupt batting for TNT. That's a quote from the Minister of Energy. The Minister of Energy, the minister of the same ministry that tried to give not even a post-dated, a late permission slip to the truant Alan Warner, who was caught breaking beach with his illegal quarrying. We assume to be applied retroactively, because if not, then what was the point? He has permission moving forward as long as he isn't convicted of illegal quarrying now, or maybe he could still move forward with the conviction. Who knows? But you give someone who has a criminal case for illegal quarrying legal permission after the date of his arrest. And we are supposed to believe, now granted, this isn't, some people might say, well, this doesn't necessarily mean that the government is doing anything corrupt and has bad intentions here. And to some extent, technically speaking, that is true. It's just that I have no room to provide you a reasonable explanation otherwise, so I am left with that assumption. So you could take that and chew on that while we take a break, and we will welcome our guests to switch gears on the conversation today. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after this.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man is being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
This is Talking Point, and we have the face of sports himself, because I said we're going to switch gears and we're going to continue to some extent our conversation we started as we came out or saw the results from the Olympics. It's a topic that is I think an important one, maybe not going to solve the murder rates now for now, but it's important for the long-term development of the country. We have the face of sports himself, Mr. Andre Batiste. Good morning, sir. It's been a while since I've
never actually been on your show, so thank you very much.
You sure? No, you might have been. You might have been on Talking Point for our first anniversary show.
Oh, okay, right, all right. But live in studio, I mean.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You were probably on Zoom then. Yes. So now,
good to be here in a role reversal. Normally you are on Face of Sports, so I'm sitting back listening, so it's okay. It all feels good.
Well, I mean, now the thing is, I get to ask you all the questions.
Feel free.
So the first,
but you still do on Face of Sports, so it's okay.
No. You ask me the questions and put me on the hot seat.
But you still ask me questions.
Well, it's not the same thing.
All right, but go ahead.
Anyway,
go ahead.
Sir. I just ask you response questions.
Sir.
So you were covering the Olympics.
Yes,
I did see some of your
Yes,
articles.
I was there.
Right now, I have said at the very least, I think Walcott's 7th place finish and Jareem's 4th place finish. I don't think we should underplay it. You know, that's the 4th best and 7th best in the world. At the end of the day, I think there's more to what it needs to be done with regards to sport. I have no problem that the ministry paid Walcott a couple $100,000. He is an elite athlete. He got gold for the country already. He did do a reasonable effort in the Olympic finals. He reached the finals, right? That's not what we should be complaining about. But generally speaking, though, this is the 2nd Olympics in a row that we haven't gotten any medals. We haven't gotten any results higher than 4th. One could maybe argue, are we a little bit spoiled? Because a couple Olympics ago, we had, our relay team getting silver on the day, right? We got Torpedo Thompson getting a silver, Walcott getting a gold. Maybe we got a little bit spoiled, but the flip side is, what are we, 8 years now? Things seem to be maybe a little bit more lackluster than usual. A lot of athletes going out before they reach even the finals. What do you make of the whole situation?
Well, again, thanks very much, Sean. But you're right in terms of we should not be happy with just reaching a finals, but we have to be, because those two persons who would have reached the finals, if you look back in time, Walcott, as you mentioned, was there since 2012. Yeah. You're talking 12 years later.
Yeah.
We're talking 12. So he's been around a long time. Jareem Richards was part of the relay reserve team in 2012. He was part of the reserve team in 2012. So he has been there a while as well. So these are two gentlemen who have shown long life. The problem, though, Sean, is what you've just said. In 2012, when we got those 4 medals, we have to think now, wait, it's the same people. 12 years later, there has been no progression.
Yes.
So that is where the problem lies. The problem lies in the success of 2012 following the 2008 success, because it all started with Richard Thompson in 2008.
With the silver there.
When he came second to Usain Bolt. So you go back as far as 2008. To now 2024, 16 years later, it's the same athletes.
Because the relay team would have included Thompson and others.
Yes, and the same.
But now our relay team.
Now our relay team included only from that team, from the team that would have been there in 2012, would have been Jareem Richards. But and again, at that time, he would have been part of the reserve.
Right. It's not like we have the new up-and-coming who was in the 100-meter finals or the 200-meter finals.
I think that's the problem. The problem is, we can be happy with 2012, but nothing was done after. In other words, the same athletes remained. Now, whether you blame the administrators, Sean Michael Small, or you blame the fact that we don't have any youngsters coming up. Why don't we have youngsters coming up?
Well, one of my callers had an interesting observation. Yeah. I think our education system is this underestimated issue that is bigger than most people would appreciate. And one of the consequences of that is what happens after school? Well, a lot of lessons. But when sports are usually played, usually after school, right? Some might be before school, but then to some extent now, if you have to go after school lessons and you're doing training before school, who knows how long a teenager could sustain that? And I'm wondering, to some extent, it might seem obvious and oversimple, but at the same time...
You're right, because the education system in Trinidad and Tobago doesn't facilitate sports. Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Sport need to collaborate. They don't collaborate enough. And that's one of the biggest problems here. The Ministry of Education has an agenda, sports has an agenda, and they just don't seem to ever, in my opinion, to be able to come together and realize, we can work together. If we work together, everybody will be happy. So everybody is different, and therefore our secondary schools, primary school, let me say primary schools, awful. Our primary school sports is awful. When you look at the standard of our primary school sports and you go to other Caribbean countries, they are way ahead. Because they
Not
invest
just
in
Jamaica.
sport. No, and that was I said other Caribbean countries.
Right.
I didn't say Jamaica. That they understand the value of sports. They understand what sports, because sports helps you with education. There are a lot of good athletes. Some of the best athletes in the world have brains. And people get vexed when I say this. They have brains.
Yeah.
Because as much as you have skill, when you face with a difficult situation on a field, on a track, you go out to run. You're the fastest runner in the world. You're one of the fastest. And a man get a false start and delay, or a man shouting and making noise. It's your mind. But if your mind's strong, and you know your mind comes strong, you know that. If you study hard and you work hard, you have to be disciplined. You have to sit down and your mind has to be strong.
No, I mean, one of the interesting things is I saw Agassi talking about there was one tennis player that he had to face that had this very hard serve, very fast serve.
Right.
And he said, well, I did film study and I found his tell. He would stick his tongue out on which direction he would serve. And then he turned around their lifetime record. It was 3-0 for the other guy. And then when it was 9-5 for Agassi when he finished. Right? Like, it's not just about the physical exertion. Because I mean, granted, one could argue maybe Usain Bolt only really worked on Usain Bolt and didn't care about the field. But other runners might look, okay, what is this runner doing? What is that runner doing? What is their strategy?
Interestingly, you mentioned Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt, when you first ran against Asafa Powell, if you go back and listen, watch his story, when Asafa Powell defeated him, Asafa Powell look across and tell him, keep quiet.
Right.
And Bolt say, you know what? The man tell me that, I go and beat him. And when he beat him the first time, he do that, keep quiet. Because in back of his mind, he had motivation. He understands, okay, this man beating me, I am motivated myself. Now that's another problem we have in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
In that our athletes, and this has been my biggest bugbear, in that our athletes, some of them receive funding so easily. Now in the case of Keshawn Walcott, once you are in the top 10 in the world, you are guaranteed $250,000.
Yeah.
Once you are from 11 to 38 or 39, you get 187,000. That is where my problem lies. My problem lies there, and I had to Bowl, and I've had this discussion many times. He was one of those who made sure this was introduced when he was running, so athletes could get reimbursed. But what I'm saying is now, Sean, is that there are athletes out there who are living on this. They are okay with getting $187,000 a year. You divide that by 12. You do the maths.
Yeah, I mean, for the rest of the country.
For the rest of the country.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's more than $12,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right? That's more than $12,000 a month you are going to get. So you comfortable with that? Every year you get that, you okay. You don't have no drive. In Jamaica, it's different. Jamaica pay their athletes based on their performance. So when you get a medal, you get performance. We also have that too. So the athletes so our athletes can get the basic 180 something, plus they get money if they succeed.
So I guess the argument would be, well, they have to train before they get the performance, but you would say, no, we should have competitions from primary school.
Correct. Then they won't have that problem.
we could set up the system to say, right, merit gets rewarded because we are building up the performance indicators.
And the other side of the coin is, related to what you've just made, it's a good point. And I'm going to use Jamaica here for example. In Jamaica, for instance, what they've done, they realized, okay, we can't support the athlete before they get ready. So here, what we're going to make sure our coaches are up to a high standard. So the athletes will stay in Jamaica. They do have the expense. The best Trinidad and Tobago athletes, apart from Jehood Gordon, the best Trinidad and Tobago athletes train abroad.
Right.
So that's why they need money.
Yes.
But if they were training in Trinidad and Tobago, let's say going to UTT, doing the schoolwork and training Trinidad and Tobago, they wouldn't need so much funding. But we don't have that level of coaching here. So they have to go outside. So now the argument comes to go outside. Unless you're on scholarship, you need funding.
Well, so I ironically, on another show that deals about the arts, I brought up when they were speaking about, there's the fact that the arts seems like one of the red-headed stepchildren of the society. And I said there's a lot of parallels with sports. Because some of the benefits of art you also get with sports. You could get heroes, you could get the patriotism, you could get something to rally people behind.
Sports gets highlight more than arts. So
that's true, right? Naturally, right?
Naturally.
But I think the results, how they're treated, is very, very similar. And the whole situation, it makes me wonder, is it that at the end of the day, and also I would lump tourism into this as well, it's almost as though they don't know what they're doing.
But that is true.
Right? They don't know what they're doing. So now the question is, should we even trust them to make changes in the short term? Because I feel as though I see it, I can't speak to sports like you can, but I see it in the arts with how NAPA was implemented, with how certain programs, and you're right. And I suspect it's the same thing with sports. They don't know.
Tourism, there's so much advantage in sports and art that tourism could use. When you look at the other countries, the way they highlight their athletes, they use their athletes for tourism. We don't. The Ministry of Tourism, where is the Ministry of Tourism, whatever tourism,
and arts and culture,
tourism, Tobago, whatever it is.
And there's multiple companies now.
Whatever it is, they don't understand. They might prefer to invest in something which I consider will bring no tangible benefit. Instead of getting involved in sports, they seem not to understand the power of sports, except when it's a major event.
Because Jamaica had Bob Marley, right? And now they more recently had Usain Bolt, right? You ask an American, Jamaica, country in the Caribbean, you ask an American, Trinidad and Tobago, what part of Jamaica is that? I've heard that before. I've heard other people say that before.
They have.
Meanwhile, we have had the silver medalist behind Usain Bolt was from Trinidad and Tobago, right? So his platform, he is an international superstar. Our guy was the number 2 right behind him, and yet our country does not have that level of recognition.
I think Sean, tourism in this country is, we know the problem. They try to impose sports tourism. They say, they talk about it. Yes, we're going to do sports tourism. We're going to bring teams here. It never materializes. When you travel abroad and you see the difficult conditions that these people, when these people in France see sun, they behave like if sun is God, They're jumping in water that you and I would not go in.
Honestly, we have had Scandinavians because now the tourist season is in January, so they come in with the rain. They don't care about the rain, because it's warm.
Yes, the way they behave in France, I mean, the water must be no more than 3 foot, right? 3 feet, sorry. And here they are jumping in it, and I'm watching and I'm saying, wow, this is a large swimming pool that it doesn't seem to be so clean. So how can you do this? But the people expect they don't get sun, Andre. So this is like unbelievable. They bear back. I mean, really? And then you realize we're taking this for granted. We could bring them here.
Now back on the focus of sports. Because just so people don't understand, I believe you're on the same page as me. The importance of sport, one of the things that these Olympic results caused me to lament, and it's not limited to sports alone, it's almost like if we no longer have any heroes to point the way. And it's almost sad that when we had Keshawn Walker that came out of nowhere, we had Richard Thompson who to some extent came out of nowhere, because coming second to Usain Bolt, that's like coming second to Simone Biles, coming second to Michael Phelps. It's like you have to give him some credit.
We didn't promote it.
So in the eyes of our young people, these are stories that it can happen. It can be done. We could have international excellence on the level of which you may not believe in yourself right now, right? And is it that not only we're not doing it, but we don't seem to understand it.
Well, I think, this is my opinion, that a lot of the problem originates with the administrators in the various sporting organizations. Not the Ministry of Sport, not necessarily Sport TT, but the various administrators. Sean, I've spoken to them, you've seen me speak to many of them.
Yeah.
And there's always this one language which upsets me the most. Andre, we are volunteers. We are not being paid. So we are doing this out of the kindness of our heart. We have another job. Anytime you go down that road, you're going down a dangerous road. Nowhere else in the world, Great Britain, and I'm talking about the top countries, Great Britain, Netherlands, their programs are in good place because they understand you have to invest. If you don't invest, when they come and they tell me there is no money in sport to pay for a cycling coach, look how good we are in terms of cycling. But we were better in cycling when Erin Hartwell was physically located in Trinidad and Tobago and training the cyclists down at the center. Not when we sending athletes to Switzerland.
What is the point of building these facilities? Because we have aquatic center, cycling center, cricket academy.
So we were better than we have this facility. We don't have a coach. We have to send Nicholas Ball to Switzerland. He is now the best rider there. And because he's the best rider there, there's no competition. How does he learn? He needs to come back to Trinidad and Tobago and come with some of these younger fellas, get more involved, who knows, come back to Trinidad and Tobago, how long will he's a Trinidad and Tobago citizen, he might like it in Switzerland, but after 3 or 4 years in Switzerland, how much more can he do? He needs that, he's back here on holidays, he needs it. So invest in it, and they tell you they have no money. But when they tell me they have no money, I tell them, which somebody has also told me before, if you spend money on the coach, maybe you won't spend money in terms of the prisons, having people go in the prisons. Maybe you won't spend money on national security because you won't have so much youngsters be on the road. They might be invested in football if you spend the money.
You reminded me, listen, I get it, basketball is not traditionally a sport that's important to the society of TNT, but there have been urban programs of keeping basketball courts in inner city areas open late into the night, 11, 12 in the United States, right? And basically, police will put their presence there to ensure it's not disrupted because they're saying, let's get the young people busy and tire them out doing something constructive as opposed to leaving idle hands.
And I mean, think about it. The more they play in the sport, the more they're out of trouble. The more they're out of trouble, they're spending less money on the judiciary. Less money, the lawyers might make less money too, obviously, right?
Yes.
Which many of them in politics wouldn't like because all of them are lawyers. But anyway, that's beside the point, right? So when you think about it, you're saving money. So if you do opportunity course,
not
is not very hard for some of them to understand.
Not just saving money. I think we're going to hit a realization, or there should be a realization, we cannot increase the capacity of the criminal justice system anymore. We could only try to slowly but surely bring the crime rates down, because it's gotten so large.
But how can you bring it down if every day there are youngsters out there who want to play football? Do you know that during the COVID, I think I mentioned this here, during the COVID, when a lot of the guys, the league wasn't there, at least we lost at least 10 or 12 players to crime.
Right.
Because they couldn't earn a living.
Right.
Right? So these are players who were in the system, could earn a living. Now think about the ones who want to come into the system and can't come into the system. What are they going to do? Yes, we can blame education.
Now, one thing though, you did say that you don't necessarily blame the Ministry of Sport, but then wouldn't the Ministry of Sport be the people to finance these various bodies?
No, the Ministry of, but they could only finance the body based on the budget that you give them. So if the body, like for instance, recently, and I saw when I was talking to an association, and I'm going to call the name because I don't want to embarrass him. I asked the guy, he said he only get X amount of money from the ministry, right? So he says, he tells me he only get 1.3 million from the ministry, right? For the year. I say, 1.3 million? That is a little TT. I say, how much you asked for? He said he asked for 1.6. I say, wait, hold on. You asked for 1.6, you get 1.3 and you're vexed because you asked for only 1.6 million for the whole year. Well, you get 1.3. So they tell you to go and get the other 3 on your own. But you should have asked for much more money.
Well,
I wonder how they think.
Here's the unfortunate reality of the now. Nobody's getting any money they asked for.
Right.
Nobody. And
right.
in some cases, not only do we have a deficit on the budget, on the actual account books, but then we also have the unstated deficit of what we should be spending, but we're not. And it's across the board.
Yes.
So this might be me kind of like being way too negative, but there's a part of me that wonders to what extent in the short term can we change that around by just with more allocation, because I don't know if we'll get a politician willing to increase the allocation.
No, well, I am saying some things that I heard some politicians say, that we have to face reality.
Right.
People don't like the reality. The reality is, what are the most popular sports in Trinidad and Tobago? Football and cricket. Which sports bring in the most number of persons? Football and cricket. You can't decide you have 50 sports in Trinidad and Tobago, all kind of new sports coming up.
Right.
Everybody can't get the same thing. It might sound hard, but and I know some people might get back to me. Darts can't get the same. Chess, which have less people, cannot expect it. And they were trying too much in the past
but at the
to
end
please
of the day,
everybody.
You know that USA's football teams, their pay is based on
revenue,
right? Which is then based on, in part, the international revenue from FIFA, their share. Like, there's no government tax money is coming in to pay you.
But two different things, because they earn money because they are successful.
Well, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
so
FIFA,
our team are not successful, so they're not going to earn that much of money. So therefore, I'm coming back to the point whereby everybody who has a sporting prize and says, I want equal money, you cannot. You have to be hard and low. Let's say what you said. If these sports have a budget of 50 million, Whether you like it or not, the majority have to go into the sport that have the most involvement. The most clubs, which will be either football or cricket, have to get the majority of the money. That's just how it has to be.
Just to start. Because Jamaica prioritizes track and field.
No, Jamaica not only of course, what Jamaica did recently is they actually stopped cricket. They didn't get involved in the recent cricket tournament. They didn't even bid because they rather put the money in a sport that they know they can get a return from, track and field. So they have already made a decision. There was a lot of protests. How come there are no cricket in Jamaica? They have no CPL team now from Jamaica either. They pull out of that because they say they invest in, as hard as it may be, they invested in football because they're good in football, and they invested in track and field where they have success, international success. Remember with cricket, you're part of the West Indies, not international success. So in other words, if you think about Jamaica has decided, I am Jamaica. I will promote Jamaica sports. The West Indies is the West Indies. That's not Jamaica. We are part of a group. So you could say it's selfish, but they have gone the way of track and field and football. We want to make the World Cup. When you make the World Cup, when you qualify for the World Cup, you get immediately 10 million.
From FIFA?
From FIFA. As a part of the qualification.
Right.
Right? Jamaica, when they reach the Copa, they get 2.5 million. We didn't make the Copa. They get 2.5 million US one time. One shot. So they already decide, let me go and make the World Cup. We get 10 million, and if we go. So they're about that.
I mean, we're running out of time on this segment, but I guess you could say all of our success, from Brian Lara to Atto Bolden to Hasey Crawford to our one World Cup appearance, or even the near miss, it ultimately is not really because of a systemic approach, but just on
definitely not.
The lightning strikes when the iron is hot. We have the natural talent, and unfortunately, if we want to live by talent and die by talent,
we are going to die. Talent alone is not going to make you successful. You've got to put in the work, and you've got to put. When we were in France, and I saw an interview, and they were interviewing this young lady. Bmobile is the name. She runs for the Netherlands, and she's just sort of skinny, scrawny young lady, if you want to use a better word. And she's running with the best of them. She said, "I'm not as skillful as them, but I don't go home until 11 o'clock. I will train and train and train." There's a cyclist, the fellow Harry Leverkusen, who won all of the races in the match sprint with his team sprint and the carrying. Sean, the race is 10 o'clock. That man and his team reaching there 8:15. He sit down on a bicycle for 50 minutes, pedaling for 50 minutes. He racing the next 25 minutes, and he pedaling for 50 minutes. Every time before he pedaling for 50 minutes. Everybody else sitting down waiting because they want to rest. He pedaling for 50, and then in between that he doing some fasting and checking his heart rate. With 20 minutes to go, he would come off the bike. So he make up himself. He not only fast, he fit. So in his mind already, I am fast, I am fit. Nothing you can do could bother me.
I mean, one could argue Usain Bolt, Simone Biles, Michael Phelps. That's when talent meets hard work, and then it becomes insurmountable. Yes. But I'll say this though, just as an aside, I think you know where I'm going. This one Olympic gave us what might be the worst example in sports when a 50-something-year-old Turkish silver medalist has shown, well, at least today, I don't care how hard you work, I'm better than all but one of you.
Yes. No. I mean, nobody could have believed it, but it happens. It happens.
But that's the exception.
That's a massive exception.
You don't see every day someone just rolls up in their sunglasses.
And look so casual, everybody else is poised, and they
everybody else, they're doing it as a science, and he's winning a silver medal because it's his hobby. That's what it seems like. That's that's the one exception that disproves everything that you just said.
It happened. But maybe, I think if he look back, he might tell himself, I could have been doing it.
But he has been, from what I understand, reading it later on, it's not like this was his first Olympics.
No, it wasn't.
So it's not as though he's completely just out of nowhere, But
it happens.
All right, so folks, we'll take a break. When we come back, we have the phone line. Stay tuned.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus, quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
And we're back here on Talking Point. Sean Michael Small with the face of sports himself. He's still with me, so you could call in and have your say. We switch gears to the topic of sport in the country because I do think, like the arts, at least in the long term, and maybe even with regards to sport in the short term, because we have tangible examples and practical experience to say we could get some of the young men off of the streets. It could help. It could help with our community development. It could help with our society's development. It could give us more heroes to look up to once we don't necessarily squander the opportunity, which I hate to say we probably did over the last couple of decades. We squandered what we had. We didn't build them up enough to show, listen, others could follow in their footsteps. And the proof is, as Andre, you pointed out, we don't have anyone following in their footsteps. Who's the next javelin thrower?
No. I said, even when I spoke with Kershaw, he said all of the young javelin throwers have gone. They came up behind him.
Right.
And you know, interestingly, he was the pioneer. When he won it in 2012, no other, I'm not being racial, no other black man, no other person other than a European had won the javelin.
Right.
After he won, I always remember the interview. We were in the interview room and a guy from Africa asked him about their young guy coming up, and he said that he's an inspiration. And next year that guy won. And since then we have the Indian winning in 2021, it's Chopra, and then this year Pakistani won.
And I think India came second.
India came second and the Grenadian came third. There was no European.
And
it has changed.
And he was the first.
He was the first, but nobody in Trinidad and Tobago followed him. But the rest of the world followed.
And it just goes, his talent showed the way, and we weren't able to figure out.
Correct. To put others in the spot and let them follow.
Folks, the numbers on your screen, you could call in and have your say about this and other things. Maybe you could even throw Andre in the hot seat on other things. He may or may not answer. I cannot promise you on that outside of sports. But
Sean, to me, right, the problem, and I'm glad you mentioned, of course, the sports company, but there's also Sport TT. Sport TT was the arm of the government that they expected that would look after the funding of athletes. It hasn't worked out that way.
Right.
When Sport TT was initially set up, they were set up to become something called the Sports Commission, which was supposed to look after sports. That is more than 15, 20 years ago, and they're still stuck. Sport TT stuck in terms of looking after facilities, which they don't do very well. You look at all the facilities in Trinidad and Tobago. You can't tell me that Sport TT is doing a good job.
We keep building them, and to the point where outside of concerts,
correct. No, the Brian, you know, we had this on this show already on Face of Sports, where the Brian Lara Academy is used more for concerts. They make more money from the car park with all the different concerts than they actually make in the cricket. I used to tell you, sometimes I wonder if the people at Sport TT, and I know there have been changes made at Sport TT, there's some changes that have been made, but I don't know if the changes would help. What I'm saying is that these are the organizations, particularly Sport TT, where they need to be focused on the job at hand. I think sometimes they're not focused on their job, they focus on other things.
Are there people with a background in sports? Could it be that either they don't know enough about sports, or their specialty in sports means that they potentially don't know enough about administration and
I think it's a combination of both. There are persons there who have, who based on their resume, I would say have a background in sports. But how much they really want to be invested in sports, how much they really love the sport, or how much is it a job for them?
Well, I mean, famously, Michael Jordan, when he was a player, he tried to be like a backseat GM with the Bulls, and just about every player, except for Dennis Rodman, that he asked for them to bring in, didn't work out. Yeah. Now, him as a GM, I haven't necessarily followed his career as a GM to determine. Yeah. But just because you are good as an athlete doesn't mean that you automatically, immediately are going to be good. Well, we have a call on the line from San Fernando, I think. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Sean.
Morning.
Morning, Andre Errol Batiste.
Good morning.
Sean, what a refreshing program this morning with Andre. You know, Andre, I wish sometimes that the government would listen to your program and get some ideas. One of the things that we allocation of resources that you all touched on is a serious problem in the country. We spend money, look for instance in South here, Andre, in South. We spent, in the last 4 years, we spent 160 million to rebuild Skinner Park, what they call the first ground. It is so underutilized. The gates are always locked. It is ridiculous that they build this facility and you're not seeing it being used. And that is the same problem I always tell Sean. If you drive around San Fernando and environs on an evening, there are all these basketball courts, all these other grounds that underutilized. Nobody is playing anything. The only thing I'm surprised that we don't have, we not going in, we haven't sent up an athlete in the what you call it, in the senior Olympics for walking, because that's all you've seen in Trinidad. People just walking in an evening, and that's for health. That has to do with that is health. Just exercising for the health. We're good at building stuff. We're not good at maintaining, and we're not good at administering anything when it comes to sports. We built a car park on Queen's Wharf there for 192 million, underutilized again. The money is being spent in the wrong places. And this thing that Sean mentioned, which I mentioned to Sean, about schools, we don't have any athletic program in the schools anymore. So we don't have a base to start to look at the athletes.
Well, you know, sir, if you look, for instance, at the school level, I am older than Sean, and in those days there were what you call physical education teachers. That no longer is there. They pick up anybody and say, hey, you go outside with this, you go outside and you just help them, just let them run along now. There is no PE, what we call PE teacher anymore. That phased out completely.
Completely. And I told Sean that already too. Now, there's one thing I want to ask you, Andre, and you don't have to answer, because you know how long I'm itching to ask you this, boy. Is it, let me ask this question, is Anthony Liaping?
Yes.
Anthony Liaping accompanies you on all these different assignments that you want.
Yes.
He get to just carry your bags?
No, you can't say that, because he has his own knowledge, he has his own ability. He had been in broadcasting longer than me, obviously, as you know.
In broadcasting?
Yes.
Yes, Andrew, but sports broadcasting is something totally different.
Well, I don't know if it's totally different. I think sometimes, you know, you need a recognizable voice, someone who would have been, because if you look around, even in the NBC, for instance, Arthur Boland is the lead man, but the guy who anchors from the NBC also anchors the politics as well. He anchors the sports as well, so he normally introduces them before they cross to Arthur Boland as well. So it's about meshing both areas.
Andre, I will accept your answer. However, you are wrong long enough to to have that same familiarity with us. Have a good day.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
I mean, to be fair, Andre, I understand where you came from because a lot of my ideas for formats and for how I want shows to look, it comes from Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, First Take, Mike Greenberg's new show, or even Mike and Mike from back in the day as what could be done on a broadcast more than normal daytime television or magazine shows or whatever. Because
and I think Nicola is there, it basically asking for me to do everything, which is a little bit hard because obviously, as you know, when we go out there, we have to do interviews, we have to arrange different things. I would not be able to do all those things, do an interview, then come and do a commentary. You're really asking a lot, and I want to tell you this, I've seen in this country, and I'm going to call the organization, I've seen an organization in this country ask a gentleman to go abroad, carry a camera, carry a mic, and do the interviews, and catch his nenen, I'm using a good word, catch his nenen to do it, and I always say to myself, that is so wrong.
Yeah.
That is so wrong. So the man had to set up the camera on a tripod, put the camera on a tripod loop, then connect, then come back. It was awful.
Because you know, when you're trying to conduct an interview, that's a process in and of itself. Right?
If you have to do everything else.
Because I actually had to do that for the THA elections last time.
Right.
And let's just say I was out of my element with the camera part. Right? Let's just say that.
But it's human.
So now, the caller did bring up something that I think it goes in line again. It's interesting how I find there are a lot of parallels with sport, art, and tourism.
He's right about Skinner Park. I must say he's right about Skinner Park.
But to some extent, can't you say to some extent most of our large stadiums are
No, but I think the reason Skinner Park was recently opened.
Right.
So it's brand new.
Recently,
so
money was spent.
Money was spent, so there's no question there about maintenance. It should be open to the public and it should be well taken care of and it should be in great condition. And I happened to be at the venue recently and it is in good condition. But they need probably to go through the process and make sure it's open and available.
Well, here's the thing. So we had Tobago Hilton, and then when Hilton pulled out, we rebranded, we renovated, we spent money to renovate. We're to Magdalena, we're making a new airport, right? So that's the tourism side. We built Napa, right? They wanted to build more things. They built Sapa. When Bmobile and Queen's Hall are still operating in the respective cities, right? To what extent do we need both? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Here's the thing. I have this sense that for politicians who might not understand the various industries, they seem to want to just go with this approach. If we build it, they will come. We build community centers. We build
legacy.
Right? Yes, but the problem is, and in some cases like with community centers, then you have gatekeepers. But in other cases, you know, like Skinner Park, is it that they're gatekeepers? What is it that the gatekeepers is money?
But you're right.
Like, what is going on?
I've looked at, for instance, Belmont have a community center. I must say it's one of the best community centers and it's available to everybody. Not everybody is proactive as others. Of course, Belmont have Stuart Young, so maybe he is a more businessman and understand
but
business.
But you build it, right? But then you just assume people will use it and it doesn't work out. What's the disconnect? Because with regards to sport, to some extent, yes, you need to have the buy-in by the grassroots. We have, I think, Belmont on the line? Dabadi, sorry. You said Belmont. Dabadi on the line. Good morning, caller.
I said Belmont,
Caller, good morning. You're on here.
Hi, good morning. And
morning, sir.
Wonderful program as usual. Sean, I like to hear problems, but I prefer to hear more solutions. Andre has been in sports. Well, Andre know me very well. I've been an administrator in sports for donkey years. And Mr. Batiste can be a person in Trinidad and Tobago to assist sports, not just by being a broadcaster, but as an advocate and an activist for sports. The NCBs, 75% of them that manage sports in Trinidad and Tobago are not competent enough and they don't have the capacity. So you have to start with that. You have to start with training from the management of these different NGBs. So I think that when we could do that, that we have efficient and effective managers at these places, then you could start seeing a difference with respect to different sports and things. And Roberts is not one of my favorite friends. Definitely not. We're on two different sides of the spectrum, politically. But he has a lot of value to sports. So therefore, we don't have to look at the individual. We don't have to look at the individual, know what he could bring to the table. You understand? He's one of the better coaches we have in Trinidad, and he understands sports. You know? Andre, we need your help in basketball, boy. I mean, you've been knocking basketball. When I was the president, you and I had a good working relationship. Let me see if we could do something now. Don't bash the basketball. Just try and help us.
Thank you, caller.
I hear you, Clayton. I recognize it.
Do we have another caller? Or all right. So I mean, because I guess you said cricket and football, but to some extent, wouldn't basketball potentially be popular?
No, and and I think Clayton identified it. Basketball. There was a time when basketball was doing very well, in my opinion. It seemed to be moving up, and then they had their internal fighting and positioning, and this person want that power, this person want that, and that is always what it is. I want to have my way, the other person don't want it his way, and everybody suffer to the extent, Sean, that Trinidad and Tobago for about 6 or 8 years could not send a national team to represent us in tournaments because there was so much in, and that would destroy any sport.
So one of the things that I have also noticed, and not even with regards to the fields that I have cited before, but just in general.
Yeah.
And it's not that this is unique to TNT, but I just find it happens too much. The capacity to understand what it takes to build a community seems to be beyond too many people who, at the end of the day, they want it their way and they want their benefits and they want to see things how they would like it.
It's almost as if, Sean Michael Small, that they feel the country owes them. Because I am the president of one of these organizations and I am not getting money. If I decide that I want to do it this way and I want to go on this trip, I must go, even if I'm not the most qualified person.
I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody in the NFL with American football who wisely, and this might have what helped make that sport the most popular in the country, to the point where some of their franchises rival Premier League franchises on most valuable in the world. They said, no, it's not about how much money I can get. We have the broadcast deal, we split it equally so that the league is strong and we will make money hand over fist. And I would argue that model has saved them well, better than what the NBA and MLB and other leagues in America
I just want to draw reference and just say that is a model which is not being used in cricket. That's why cricket is dying. So for instance, in cricket, it's 100% is the total. Out of that 100% shown, India gets 66%.
Right.
If one country gets it, no wonder India is doing so well. They get 66%.
Well, I mean, when it's international, then it's even harder.
Yeah, 66%.
Right? Yes.
Then after that, West Indies gain .something%. It's India first, England second, Australia third, and then the West Indies and New Zealand and South Africa and all of them fight up. And they're fighting for 5%. All them fighting up to share 5%.
Right, because one could argue, it's nice that India has the lion's share of the money, but if the competition dries up...
Which is what I don't understand, how the Indians themselves don't understand that, wait, after a while, when you keep beating yourself, why the IPL is not as popular as it used to be? Because now they're primarily only Indian players, right?
Right.
So
it's not as exciting.
It's like the CPL. Look at the CPL right now. The CPL, if you look at it, there are no top players in the CPL apart from the West Indian players because they don't have no money.
Meanwhile, basketball internationally, as much as I prefer the NFL as a sport, basketball is proven to be this international juggernaut because the NBA has accepted international players, right? And it now Team USA is no longer automatically...
No, that's what I'm saying. So if look, over there in France, they were what they call ticketed sports, meaning that how even if you were a member of the media, even if you were an official, you could not get there because this sport was in so much demand. Basketball finals and semifinals was ticketed.
Yes.
We expected in football, so it's okay. It was ticketed. But because people came out not necessarily to see England, not necessarily to see USA win, but to see USA lose.
Right. Because it's happened before.
It's going to happen before, and they were given a good fight. Whether it was in the semi-final with Serbia, or whether it was in the finals with France. France surprised me a lot. I didn't expect France to give them such
at the end of the day, they have been, I think Tony Parker was from France.
Yes, Tony Parker was from France.
European basketball, which has slightly different rules, so it's a bit of a different game.
Yeah.
And I think the implication is more physical, not as soft as the American
and not only that, the teamwork. America, and you know, they already criticized the basketball coach from America because he didn't use Jason Tatum, a man who just won the NBA. He scarcely used him. He used it many know Curry and things. But at the end of the day, if Curry wasn't shooting the way he was shooting, America would have lost that game.
Well,
right?
I think a lot of it too, when you have LeBron and Curry, and okay, so we're moving a little bit away from... No, but I want to say this as a head.
Go ahead.
So apparently when you have LeBron and Curry, and they had a special play where they used Curry to screen LeBron, and it caused a unique situation, because literally now, like, and they were...
Mark, right?
Not just that, but then if you made a certain choice, then all of a sudden LeBron will maybe screen pass it to Curry. Curry is such a good shooter who can also drive it, right? LeBron, he's still LeBron, right? He's not MJ, but he's still LeBron. That duo, and because it's small man, big man, you know, like it caused so much problems. And I think I can't remember what the word was, but LeBron would just call for his play, and it would either just open up the lane for him because the man is marking Curry, then Curry will screen LeBron's man. Right. He'll take two out of the play one time. You give LeBron such a success. Usually a screen will take one man on the play. Right. You're taking two men on the play. You give LeBron such a free lane. It is kind of baby. No. But then the fact that you could opt out of it, you could flip it on the reverse. You don't take the bait. We could kick it to Curry to then shoot on the outside. I want to say that was
in the finals, Curry was taking some unbelievable shots. I see Curry, three men, they reach the stage there where they realize Curry is the man to beat us. France put three men on Curry, you know,
which is ridiculous.
Three men. And the normal, Curry should pass, and he should pass. Curry refused to pass. Curry shoot over them three men, you know. So he stay, this is the 3-point line here. They put three men, 1, 2, 3 on the line. Curry, instead of going forward, Curry step back. So he can get the elevation and hit that ball up in the air, like, and you're watching the ball go high and come down into the net.
I think it was one of those things where he was like, look, I'm going to make a statement this game. I want to make sure they don't have a chance.
No chance.
And at the end of the day, I'll say this for LeBron. He does understand more than other superstars of his level. If that man cooking,
he ain't fight it.
Right?
Correct.
You know, now, granted, I would argue Kobe also understood that premise. The question is why he didn't necessarily feed into that more, but maybe if Kobe had a Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is...
No, they can't shoot like him.
Unique
and as he said, he put them to sleep. He silenced all the French crowd because that crowd was going mad. They thought France was right back in the game.
I'll say this. I too was actually impressed that France was able to get to the finals.
To play so good,
in their home turf. Because usually that's not guaranteed.
But you know, that really is because Serbia played a game that didn't work in their favor.
Right.
When Serbia played against America in the draw, Serbia played Jokovic, right?
Right.
The Joker, they call it, right? They played him for only 30 minutes of the match. He scored 32 and they rest him. Because they thought they would have had an easier match before and they would have gone straight to the finals. They end up getting trouble and they end up in the draw having to play America again in the semifinals. They were resting him for that one game. He played really good, because they lead America up to 10 points in the last 10 minutes. America had to really come back in that game, because they went all out.
Look, basketball, we're talking about Serbia.
Yes.
Right? We're not talking about a big G20 country, G20 economy. We're talking about programs could make do when they have opportunity.
Yes.
Because, in part, the Europeans have basketball programs, and then he goes to the NBA. So at the end of the day, his coach, his teammates who might not play the NBA knows at the very least, we have an NBA superstar.
Correct.
So not only could he match up to them, but when we practice, we could see how far we are, right? We will then be able to, like you said, when he's in Switzerland, the cyclist, right? And he's the best cyclist there.
Correct.
Development is so hard when you're on top.
That's it.
But when you know that there's a target to chase, and the question is, do we have that target? It is. One could argue, at the very least, if we want to be track and field, we don't just have a target, we also have an example. We have a neighbor.
We have Atto Bolden.
We also have Atto Bolden.
Who we could call on, who is willing to come, and you're going to hear more about it on Face of Sports at 2:30 live, right? Who you can call on for support. That's what they could do.
Well, I mean, it's not just Atto Bolden, right? We have others. I mean,
yes. But easy. But to me,
He is the one that's in it.
He is the best because of his age and because he's so invested over 20 years. He knows everything about the sport. You don't have to like everything he says.
Yeah, because it's not just that he was an athlete. No, he's also been a part of it actively.
Yeah, so he was a commentator. He is a commentator, so he was a coach. So he's involved in coaching. He knows it all. Give him a chance. Just because they don't like the man. And he said it, and in fact, making me preempt the show. But anyway, you'll hear more about it on 2:30. Hear from Atto Boland, sorry.
Hear from Atto. So you heard it here first. Atto Boland on Facebook Sports live this afternoon.
But not live, recorded because of time difference.
Because of time difference, right. Unfortunately, international.
International, and he has. And most of you would know that how there are meets going on in Switzerland, Lausanne, the Grand Prix, and all these different things, right? So the timing is that because of the 6 hour difference, like the prime time in them.
Okay, so one of the things Dabadi always says, he wants to have more solutions. Now, granted, sometimes I try to give a certain style of solution that maybe might not be enough to appease all people. But with regards to sports, as we're closing the show, you have mentioned the fact that, look, you see some of the problems, right? And I pointed out, well, budget might be a major problem in the immediate to short term. But what is like the one thing, because you did say, I guess we could take the starting point, we should focus.
We need to focus, and we need administrators who understand their role. And if the administrators understand their role and properly plan, my focus would be, Sean, that we come together as a group, bring some of the leading athletes and pick 20 athletes and put them in a program for the next 4 to 8 years, invest in them, let them be locally based.
What's the age cutoff?
The age, I want them to be from about 17, 18 years old. That's what I want, because I want to think about the next 2 Olympics.
Now, which sports are you talking about?
I'm talking about looking at
track and field.
No, track and field, cycling, swimming. Those are the 3 major sports that I feel that we have a chance in the Olympics.
Because to some extent, there was also some disappointment from our swimming results.
Yes,
from our cycling results.
And again, it's the same thing. Here's a young man, Dylan Carter. He had to Dylan Carter had been traveling the world, paying his own way, paying his own way to his parents and his help from the money, the funds he received, the prize money. So he has had to go and compete in events which he shouldn't have to go and compete in.
Some people want to say that there may be favoritism of who gets money
no,
in sport. That's not the case,
That's not the case. I'm talking about a man having to go and compete in events where the top men not doing it, because you know why? They're getting funded, so they don't need to go on. He had to earn a living. So he's had to go and compete in Grand Prix events. So he's swimming he'll be swimming later this year, because he had to make a living. He's not getting funded.
So he's making a living from tournament winnings.
Right, and therefore, how much pressure that puts on you? Yeah. Because you instead of getting ready for an event, you always race it. It's a human body, you know.
Right, because, I mean, some people might understand this, particularly with track. It's when you peak.
Of course, it's when you peak. So there's a lot of pressure on him in terms of peaking, because he has to weigh peaking and getting no money, or peaking and getting money.
So you did say we should focus on popular sports. No, hold on, before cricket and football.
Cricket is not in the, well, actually, good point. Cricket is in the Olympics this time around. So we wait to see what happens with the Trinidad and Tobago team. There will be cricket in the 2028 Olympics. So there is something to
Well, here's the thing though. Do we want to wait?
As Trinidad and Tobago, we should be, but the problem is, so far, nobody has said what will be the qualifying decision, how will they go, because remember, we stand right now, the CPL is not Trinidad and Tobago, it's Trinidad and Tobago Knight Riders. So that would mean there'll have to be a separate tournament in the West Indies to decide which team from the West Indies representative, because remember, it can't be the West Indies, has to be a country. So there needs to be a T20 tournament, a separate tournament. And of course, Cricket West Indies has not announced anything about that.
Right, because Trinidad and Tobago Knight Riders is technically a club.
It's technically a franchise.
Right.
So it includes players
not a national team.
It's not a national team.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
but nobody, you voted up, but nobody is thinking about it, because that's how we are. So
that's
it's so incredible, because we're going to say, it's 4 years, 4 years, we're worrying about.
No, but you can't wait till 4 years.
But in 4 years, America and Canada and them going to be real strong.
Yeah, because America, cricket.
Right, yes, they're playing. Yeah, they're not waiting. But
they play rugby too.
We'll wait. We like to wait.
So you think we can potentially do it? We can give some attention to football and cricket, and maybe basketball, at least on the community level.
Football, I'm not sure about the World Cup qualification for football anymore. I think our chances are slim in terms of football, because there's a lot of...
So really and truly, perhaps maybe we should start to concentrate on the lowest levels of these sports to build back up our capacity.
If we start really at the prime, I know there's something called I Choose Sport going on now. It's a good idea. It just needs to get more into the grassroots.
Right.
And invest in it. But select. But Sean, we have skillful persons here. We can go around. Anyway, I don't want to say but in my mind, I feel I can go around and select, in my mind, person from cycling who should be in the program, person from track and field who should be in the program, person from swim who should be in the program.
So
if I could do it, others could do it.
So maybe football, we need to plan for the long term.
Yes.
But for the next Olympics, for those sports, which traditionally we've already invested in, we have this aquatic center, that cycling center, etc., etc. We could put something together.
We have a young guy called Nkosi Blackman right now. He's in the university. He's a young man. He's only 19 years old. Invest in him for the next Olympics. So he and Dylan could be there with a young lady called Ferguson, Yuri Ferguson. There's a few names I'm giving you. Then we have right now, we have a young team in cycling, under 19. A lot of them have reached the 1-8 finals in the World Junior Cycling. They're all 17 and 18 years old. Next 4 years, they'll be the right age, 22. So keep them on the right path. Take them and put them to train with Nicholas Paul down
because
there.
Part of it is, if they don't see the support and they don't see the potential,
let them learn.
They might fall off. They might move away, not so?
And you know what, before you go, you know what they said the salary of the coach, who Aaron Hartwell, you know what the salary was? They say $5,000 US. We can't find that a month to pay a top coach.
I mean, I'll say this, it might be a little bit more now. And by a little, I mean a lot. But still, I think it comes down to the fact that we're spending all this money and we're spreading it out as opposed to figuring out what the priorities are and spending it.
It's time to pick up, prioritize.
I said this before, that's the difference between a plan and a list.
No, that's the difference between a politician and somebody who
No, because people could make a list of things that they want. But to make a plan, you have to prioritize.
Yeah, basically what you call it is a roadmap, right? Yeah, so you have a roadmap, you put together a roadmap. It's not hard. But anyway,
are they willing?
Are they willing? They might be willing if they was getting some money from it.
But that's the sad part. There is money in sports.
But they want the money in their pocket. Anyway, let me go there.
I mean, FIFA has proven that there is money for politicians in sports, you know, but you have to earn money first. I'm just saying.
Make money to earn money. All right?
I am not encouraging corruption, folks. This
Definitely
is
not.
The face of sports.
2:30. We'll be back.
Thanks for joining me, sir.
Welcome. Before I go, I must say I had the opportunity to meet your mother this week.
Yes, I know.
And his mother is totally not like him. A really nice, gentle, kind, soft-spoken woman. I don't know how she gave birth to this man, but nevertheless, she seems to love him very much. She told me some stories which I'm not going to go with here. I will hold them for face of sports.
You have not seen her in her professional capacity.
But she was very present.
She doesn't mince matters, right? When people bring ship
I understand that Sean is on a special diet too as well. I'll leave it there. A gentleman told me that today as well. Anyway, leave it there.
I would like to thank all of our callers. I would like to half take back some of my thanks to the face of sports himself, right? Who likes to always have a laugh at my expense, but it was good.
There was no laugh.
You were just laughing at me.
No, I was so shocked to see your mother. When they told me this is Shawn Michaels, I had to get up from my seat and go and shake her hand.
Anyway, this conversation was a long time coming. I think early in the year I wanted to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm happy.
Thank you.
We had the Olympic results to kind of give us
a chance,
practical examples as well as to what you would be talking about. He champions the cause for years, folks. It's not just because of this last Olympics, so keep that in mind. Remember your allegiance to the Republic. Stay safe out there. Make this weekend a good weekend, as my colleague Mr. Shaw always says. We will see you next week. But also later today.
Yes, Face of Sports.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
WESN.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference. FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Young at heart, purpose-driven, patriot even. When you like to party, but are still passionate about discussing important issues, the only place where your needs will be met is WESN Content Capital.
Israelis from her speech, but they worry about what might come if she becomes the next president of the United States.
Well, Donald Trump made a visit to the southern U.S. border on Thursday, where he leaned on one of his most central campaign messages, immigration. His trip came on the final day of the Democratic National Convention, an intentional move to draw focus away from the Democrats' celebration of their candidate, but also an opportunity to blast their border control policy, which is seen as one of the party's political weaknesses. Vedika Bahel has more.
It's one of the core tenets of his re-election campaign. During a visit to the U.S. southern border with Mexico in the key swing state of Arizona, Donald Trump reminded voters of his stance on tough border security, pointing out the wall built during his presidency.
That's a lot of wall up there we built. And if you look at the top, that's where they stopped. When Biden and Harris came in, that's where they stopped, and that's how they get in. They can't come in here. This was all done to the specifications of the Border Patrol and ICE and everybody else. That's an anti-climb panel on top. It makes it very hard to climb.
The Trump administration's zero-tolerance immigration policies separated thousands of children from their families and restricted travel for Muslims under his travel ban. And his current campaign pledges even more hardline policies. The 78-year-old continued personal attacks on his opponent Kamala Harris, alluding she's a communist, before blasting her record on immigration and border security.
We had a border czar who was the border czar. She loved the title, but she didn't want to do the work because she's lazy, and probably more importantly than being lazy, she wants to have an open border.
The former president's visit to the Arizona border is his latest event held in battleground states this week, as he pushes to draw focus on one of the Democrats' biggest political vulnerabilities against the backdrop of the Democratic National Convention. Democrats have accused Trump of weaponizing the border as a way to demonize immigrants and have recently defended the party's stance, saying Harris is tough as nails on the issue.
In Venezuela, the Supreme Court has backed President Nicolas Maduro's claims that he won last month's presidential election. They also stated that voting tallies published online showing that he lost by a landslide were forged. This comes amid protests at home and international criticism following the contested July 28th vote, where Maduro, a self-described socialist, was seeking a third six-year term. Here's his response to that ruling, with a reaction from opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez following that verdict from the Supreme Court.
The nation's judicial body issued a historic and forceful sentence. And we say from the streets of La Guaira and Venezuela, holy word, let there be peace, absolute respect.
The world knows that the Venezuelan Supreme Court stopped being an impartial court at the service of justice a long time ago and has become the enforcement arm of Nicolas Maduro. We won overwhelmingly, and we have the tallies to prove it.
Well, that's all from us, but do stay with us. We'll have more news coming up here on France 24 in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, how the ban on skin lightening products in Ivory Coast has failed to stop tens of thousands of women from buying these creams. This as health officials warn of risks such as diabetes and hypertension. Also, life after the Islamic State group, we head to the Anbar region in Iraq, which is undergoing massive reconstruction as local women attempt to pursue interests outside of the traditional family home. And a Paris photographic exhibition celebrates the work of famed author Annie Ernaux, who became the first ever French woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. But we begin in Ivory Coast, where 9 years after a national ban on skin whitening products, the trend continues to boom despite its health risks. More than 1 in 2 women are known to use such products. However, activists are furious at authorities for failing to stop people from buying these creams, as our team on the ground report.
You can find just about anything in the Adjamé market in Abidjan, even down to skin lightening products for babies. Here in Nadej's boutique, this mother is looking for advice from the saleswoman, unhappy with the last product she bought.
I bought a product in San Pedro that darkened my baby. I'm having her make something to make his skin lighter.
Nadej is confident in their quality. She uses these products on herself and her children.
I've been using these products since my son was 1. I mix this with this soap, and then I put these 2 tubes inside to change the tints. To clean their skin, everyone wants their child to be pretty. For the child to have a beautiful complexion, you can't have clean skin and for your child to still be dirty.
Fevicide, an ointment for pimples and burns, contains corticosteroids and is intended only for short-term use. Misusing it as a skin lightening product is common in Ivory Coast, leading to serious health complications. Over 500 patients a year suffer from depigmentation-related issues, as warned by a dermatologist from Traceville University Hospital.
You can get stretch marks or even skin infections. There are also risks associated with products entering the bloodstream. This can lead to diabetes, hypertension, and kidney failure.
Back at the Ajame market, Marcelin Do and his NGO, partnered with Professor Kaloga, are trying to take down the idealization of light skin as a beauty standard.
Ladies, you don't have to have white skin. You're beautiful as you are.
Half of Abidjan's female population engage in skin depigmentation. The NGO's goal is clear: raise awareness among mothers to protect them and their children.
So if you're going to depigment yourself to please a man, he's going to say, "Hey baby, you're so pretty." Okay, you're pretty, but in the end you'll be the one suffering the consequences.
Their campaign also reminds traders of the 2015 decree prohibiting the sale of lightning products containing harmful ingredients, a law many disregard, like this wholesaler who sells a wide range of products for children.
Children and teenagers can use this. And there's also this cream for babies and newborns. There's also a shower gel. The decree is not really convenient for us because we make a lot of money from selling these products. I tell myself they're legal because they're sent by companies. But after what they've said today, there's a bit of doubt in my mind.
With minimal regulation and oversight on imported and locally produced cosmetics, compliance with the law is uncertain. The Marcelin Do Association tasked the National Public Health Laboratory with testing 8 samples of lightning cosmetics to ascertain their adherence to regulations.
There are compliant products and others that do not comply. What we notice repeatedly is that the labeling does not comply with the regulations. There are some that don't even specify the presence of hydroquinone. These products are presented as if they are to be used on a daily basis, except these products containing active lightening ingredients should only be used to resolve occasional problems. So why are these products so easily found, over the counter and in plain sight? For Marcelin Do, the corruption of the health police and the lack of political will are at the heart of the problem.
They're always in contact with these sellers. The products are before their eyes. They can see them. They know. In the decree regulating cosmetics and personal hygiene products signed in 2015, a committee was meant to be set up to regulate the sale of these products. But this committee has never existed up until today. The question is, why?
We contacted the Ministry of Health about this problem but received no answer. Since the decree was passed in 2015, very little has been done by the state to truly eliminate lightning products from the Ivorian market.
Now to the western part of Iraq, which has undergone a massive reconstruction following occupation by the Islamic State group. The rebuilding has meant that women are also slowly attempting to pursue interests outside of the family home. This report by Marie-Charlotte Rupi and Josh Vardy.
Only a few years ago, this scene in western Iraq would have been difficult to film. Hajar, nicknamed Anbar's first woman on horseback, has set up a riding centre exclusively for women.
I want to break down the stereotypes in Anbar. Women in such a conservative society are not able to move around freely.
Rapid change has come to her province since the end of the war against the Islamic State group. Hajar discovered a passion for riding while in exile in Dubai. She now wants to make it more accessible to others.
This region and its women are in need of places for entertainment. We're not violating any social norms or tribal codes. On the contrary, horses embody the history of Anbar and the traditions we were raised in. We will keep fighting for society to support women.
For now, it's up to her to support her friends. Hanan says she's convinced.
It's an appropriate hobby for Anbar women because it's not in public places.
The riding centre is one of a number of private female sport initiatives that have opened in the city. Local NGO activist Raja says these changes are an indirect consequence of the war.
The men were absent, and people saw that women were able to meet their needs. We took advantage of what we had learned from the places where we were displaced. We brought some ideas back to our governorate and added our own touch to them, with our norms, our values, and Islamic and Anbari traditions.
While navigating these codes, women have a place to gather in the evening in the town of Anna. It was opened by Islam and her daughter.
If you go to the market every day, it's not possible. People will gossip or criticize you. It was very difficult for women. So we came up with this project. Only women are allowed here, so that they feel comfortable.
After a year of existence, the Flamingo Cafe stands as inspiration to its customers. It also provides a space for young women entrepreneurs to meet, plan and develop their own projects for the future.
And finally, here in Paris, a photographic exhibition celebrating the work of famed French writer Annie Ernaux. She became the first ever French woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2022. Her novels drawing on personal experiences of class and gender.
This book is a bit like a cash register of things I've heard. It's like a camera, witnessing things.
Journal du dehors, translated as Exteriors in English, describes scenes of everyday life seen or heard by Annie Ernaux in France between 1985 and 1992. 31 years after its publication, her book has inspired a new exhibition in Paris. At the European House of Photography, more than 150 snapshots echo Ernaux's writing. Like this photo by Janice Niepce, taken in 1965.
Really, this is a show about observation and about being able to move around the world. That's what Annie did when she wrote this book. But, you know, she also spent a lot of her life feeling the confines of motherhood and being unable to have that freedom. And I think the image is very symbolic of that sort of, the compromises of motherhood, you know, the wonder of having one's children, but also the sense of confinement.